The night was quiet. The kind of quiet that wraps around you like a thick blanket, muffling every sound. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a pale glow over the empty streets and the silent, eerie forest. It was a night that seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to happen. Very quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you want to hold your breath. Inside one of the houses, a little girl named Lily was feeling the weight of this silence. Her house, usually filled with the comforting sounds of her parents, was now eerily still. Lily, a little girl with eyes as bright as stars, was getting ready for bed. She brushed her teeth, put on her favorite pajamas, and climbed into her bed, her mind wandering to the stories her parents usually told her before sleep. Her room was dark, except for the soft glow of a nightlight. The nightlight was shaped like a small moon, casting a gentle, reassuring light that painted friendly shadows on the walls. It painted friendly shadows on the wall. These shadows usually danced and played, creating a comforting atmosphere that lulled Lily to sleep. Lily snuggled under her covers, her teddy bear tucked under her arm. The teddy bear, a gift from her grandmother, was her constant companion and protector during the night. She closed her eyes, ready for sleep. Her breathing slowed, and she felt the familiar pull of dreams beginning to take over. But something felt strange. The air felt colder, and the usual warmth of her room seemed to have vanished. Lily's eyes fluttered open, and she noticed the change immediately. Lily opened her eyes. The shadows on the wall weren't dancing anymore. They were still and long, like fingers reaching for her. The once friendly shapes now seemed menacing. They were still and long, like fingers reaching for her. The shadows seemed to stretch and grow, their shapes twisting into something unfamiliar and frightening. Lily shivered. She pulled her blanket tighter, trying to ignore the feeling in her tummy. It was a mix of fear and loneliness, a feeling she had never experienced before. She wished her parents hadn't gone out. The house felt too big, too empty without them. She longed for their comforting presence, their soothing voices telling her that everything was all right. But tonight she was alone, and the night seemed to stretch on endlessly. Lily tried to focus on the happy thoughts. She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block out the darkness that seemed to creep closer with every passing second. The room felt colder, and the shadows seemed to stretch and twist in ways that made her heart race. She thought about the day she got her teddy bear. It was a sunny afternoon, and her grandmother had surprised her with it. The bear had a little red bow and smelled faintly of lavender. It was her favorite toy, her comfort in times of fear. It was a present from her grandmother. She remembered its soft fur and button eyes. She would often talk to it, sharing her secrets and dreams. The bear was her silent guardian, always there to listen. But the happy thoughts wouldn't stay. Something tickled her ear. It felt like a wisp of hair, but there was no one else in the room. The sensation sent shivers down her spine. It was a whisper, soft as a breath. "Lily," it said. The voice was faint, almost like a sigh carried by the wind. It was eerie, and it made her skin crawl. Lily froze. She knew that voice wasn't real. It couldn't be. She was alone. And yet the whisper felt so close, as if someone was right beside her. She turned her head slowly. There was nothing there. The room was empty, but the shadows seemed to dance mockingly at the edges of her vision. "It's just the wind," she whispered to herself, her voice trembling. She tried to convince herself that it was all in her head, a trick of the mind. She closed her eyes tightly, squeezing them shut. Maybe if she didn't see the shadows, they wouldn't be able to reach her. But the whisper came again. "Lily," it hissed, closer this time. The voice was more insistent, more real. It felt like it was right next to her ear. Lily's heart pounded like a drum in her chest. She was too scared to open her eyes. The fear was overwhelming, and she felt paralyzed, unable to move or even breathe properly. The room seemed to close in on her, the darkness becoming almost tangible. A floorboard creaked outside her room. Lily's eyes flew open. The shadows on the wall seemed to be moving closer, twisting and turning like living things. The whisper came again, but this time it was under her bed. "I'm here, Lily," it rasped. Lily scrambled back against the headboard, her breath caught in her throat. She stared at the edge of her bed, her eyes wide with terror. Something moved in the darkness beneath. A scratching sound like claws on wood. Lily's breath came in short, sharp gasps. She wanted to scream for her parents, but fear choked her voice. She was trapped. The scratching stopped. The sudden silence was almost deafening, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Silence hung heavy in the air, thick and suffocating. It was the kind of silence that made every creak and whisper of the house seem amplified, echoing in the stillness. Lily dared to breathe again. Maybe it was gone. She listened intently, straining her ears for any sign of movement, but there was nothing. Just the oppressive quiet. Maybe it was all in her head. She had been so tired lately, her mind playing tricks on her. She tried to convince herself that it was just her imagination running wild. Then a pair of eyes, glowing like hot coals, appeared under the bed. They were unmistakable, piercing through the darkness with a malevolent glare. They stared at her, burning into her with an unnatural intensity. Lily's blood ran cold. She couldn't look away. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing in her ears. The eyes blinked, and a low growl rumbled from under the bed. It was a sound that seemed to come from the depths of a nightmare, primal and menacing. It was slow, guttural, filled with a hunger that chilled her to the bone. The growl reverberated through the room, making the shadows seem to dance and flicker. Lily knew then that this was no figment of her imagination. This was real, and it was terrifying. She felt a cold sweat break out on her forehead as she realized the true horror of her situation. The creature shifted, and Lily could see more of it now. A long, bony arm, covered in coarse hair, emerged from the darkness. Its fingers, tipped with sharp claws, scraped against the floorboards. Lily wanted to scream, to run, but she couldn't move. She was paralyzed with fear. The creature stretched, its claws reaching towards her like a spider seeking its prey. They were cold and sharp, like shards of ice. Lily squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the worst. She felt the creature's rancid breath on her face, smelled the stench of decay. It was close enough to touch. Lily's eyes flew open. The creature was inches away. Its face was a grotesque mask of shadows, its teeth bared in a silent snarl. It was all wrong, like something out of a nightmare. Lily wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The creature's hot, fetid breath washed over her like a wave of decay. It smelled of death and dust and things best left undisturbed. Lily felt a cold dread creep into her heart, squeezing it tight. She was alone, utterly alone, at the mercy of this thing from her darkest fears. The creature leaned closer, its eyes burning into hers. It opened its mouth wider, and Lily could see rows of sharp, pointed teeth, glinting in the faint light. She squeezed her eyes shut, waiting for the inevitable. But it never came. A scraping sound. The creature was moving away. Lily dared to open her eyes. The space under her bed was empty. The creature was gone. But as Lily lay there, heart pounding, she couldn't shake the feeling that it was still there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next opportunity to strike, waiting for her.